Let's take a look now at Capitol Hill, where the government has shut down for the first time in nearly 7 years. At midnight, the government ran out of money. Both sides are blaming the other, while millions of federal workers brace for what is a very uncertain future. What was the final chance to keep the government open failed tonight in the Senate. Majority Leader Thune and Minority Leader Schumer had this to say.
Well, I know why we're doing this, Mr. President. The Democrats' far left base said jump. The Democrat leaders said how high. But the far left's determination to oppose anything President Trump has ever said or done is not a good reason for subjecting the American people to the pain of a government shutdown.
It's natural that people understand that Donald Trump and the Republicans want to shut down and Democrats do not. We need to deal with this health care crisis now, not later. But the Republican bill fails to do that. I urge my Republican colleagues instead to join with us, work in good faith to keep the government open, keep costs down.
President Trump is threatening to fire federal workers and cut programs and benefits. He also said he can do things that are irreversible. Democrats rallied on Capitol Hill earlier today in a show of unity and demanded that Medicaid cuts be restored, saying Republicans would rather shut down the government than protect the health care of the American people. And with the government shutdown now in effect, Jay O'Brien joins us from Capitol Hill. Jay, what happens now?
Lindsay, it means the apparatus of the federal government slowly grinds to a halt. The longer a shutdown goes, the worse the effects become because money begins to dry up. For the nearly 4 million federal employees, it means that if the government shutdown continues to roll into the month of October, they will start missing paychecks. The first federal paycheck of October is already going to be processed because it's money that was already set to go out this week. But then there's another paycheck that comes up for federal employees. We're talking about troops, their families, other federal employees in the middle of the month. And if the shutdown lasts until then, they will miss that crucial paycheck. There will be some employees that are told to come to work and still work without getting paid, and they will ultimately get back pay assuming the shutdown ends. Those are employees like TSA agents, air traffic controllers, people that do weather forecasting for the National Weather Service. And then other federal employees will be furloughed and told not to show up to work. That will start to happen today in Washington, D.C., OMB says. Those employees will start to get their marching orders as of today. But as the shutdown grinds on, if it lasts for a certain chunk of time, money will start to dry up in key federal programs like SNAP, which is the Nutrition Assistance Program for lower-income Americans, like WIC, which is nutrition assistance for mothers and infants, and the list goes on. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, that will still be processed, but you could also see delays there too the longer the shutdown rolls. It is a slow grinding, as I said, of the federal government to a halt that could be seriously detrimental for millions of Americans.
And if history is any indication, any predictions here as far as how long a shutdown could go on?
The longest shutdown in U.S. history was 35 days, Lindsay. That was in the first Trump administration. But right now, neither side is really close to a deal. As you heard earlier, Democrats are holding out. They want an extension of Obamacare tax credits. Republicans are accusing Democrats of holding a gun to the head, as the vice president said earlier, of the federal government to negotiate. Democrats have said, look, they want to negotiate with Republicans. Republicans have said, don't do that with the federal government in play. We'll negotiate at a later date. But it's really up to Democrats here. They feel right now that they have the political momentum to try to extract this concession on these Obamacare tax credits out of Republicans. They feel they have the political will, but the longer a shutdown grinds on, the question facing Democrats is how long will they be willing for this to last?
Jay O'Brien from Capitol Hill. Thanks so much, Jay. And not long before the shutdown, we caught up with New Jersey Senator Andy Kim. All right, let's just start here. Where do we go at this point?
Right now, it is inevitable that we're going to have a shutdown in 3 hours, and that is an abdication of leadership. You know, that really falls upon President Trump, the leadership in the Senate and the House on the Republican side that control the gavel. So this is something where the American people are waking up, seeing the type of abdication of leadership and dereliction of duty. You know, I'm here at the Senate. We've been here all day. We've been trying to negotiate all week. But what I will say, who is not here are the people in the House of Representatives on the Republican side. Speaker Johnson sent them home, told them not to show up. So while those service members that you were just talking about, federal workers, are going to have to show up to work tomorrow and not get paid, These Republican members of Congress refuse to even show up to work and do their job. That is why we're here today.
You held a town hall tonight to talk with your constituents about the impacts of a shutdown. Tell us about that conversation.
Yeah, right after the votes that we had in the Senate, I did a telephone town hall to reach across all across New Jersey. We had over 6,000 people dial in to be able to listen to this, and what I heard from them was really powerful. People talking about, there's a woman named Lucinda who talked about the concerns that she has. She told me to hold the line because she cannot afford her health care. She would have to give it up if she's not able to continue to get the support for the ACA through the marketplace. I had a woman named Barbara who talked about the challenges that her family's facing, but she put it in that context, saying that this is a challenge that people are hearing and facing all across America right now. This is real. You know, this is something that cannot be looked at as just some partisan power struggle, as a tug of war between political parties trying to see who they blame. Real lives are at stake. Tomorrow and in the coming days, millions of Americans will realize that their health care is going to go through the roof. Many of them will see their prices double. About 4.5 million Americans will lose their health care. Over 20 million Americans will have to pay extraordinary prices. This is a crisis of the Republicans' making, and we have to do everything we can to solve it.
We spoke to a Republican senator from West Virginia, Shelley Moore Capito, a few hours ago. We asked her if she was concerned about the cuts to the Affordable Care Act that Democrats are in part shutting down the government over. Let's take a listen to what she had to say.
I'm absolutely concerned. 60,000 West Virginians get a subsidy for their premium support. That doesn't expire until December 31st. That begins a new year of premium support in January. We have time to work on this issue. We've been talking about this issue with our Democrat counterparts, with the president. I think the president is very interested in seeing that we reach a solution here. And so I think that what you're going to see is some kind of compromise, but we have to keep the government open while we reach and have those negotiated talks on premium support.
If Republicans are willing to negotiate over this, why shut the government down now when the deadline of the ACA is December 31st?
Well, it's not December 31st, and that's the problem, is that is out of touch with what is actually happening. The fact is that the open enrollment begins on November 1st when it comes to people getting their health care, and a lot of families are going to be looking at the increased costs and saying, I can't afford that. I'm going to have to lower the type of coverage I get or get rid of it altogether, and have to make some really tough choices. They cannot wait till Thanksgiving or the end of the year to be able to get that clarity. This is a crisis right now, and we have to respond to it. And that is what I just fail to see, how my colleagues can be so callous in the face of so many challenges that Americans are facing with their loved ones or themselves to get care when they need it most.
Just how concerned are you about the fact that the White House is threatening not to just furlough workers, but to fire them?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just shows you just the extremism of what they've been doing. And they're threatening to fire federal workers. They have already fired hundreds of thousands of federal workers. Their budget that they're trying to ram through would fire hundreds of thousands of federal workers. It is an attack upon our government and, frankly, our Constitution in terms of how we're trying to engage. And I say that as someone who worked as a career federal public servant in the civil service. I worked under both Republicans and Democrats in the White House. These are the people that are helping our government, helping our American people get the services that they need. And again, the idea that these service members and our government employees are showing up to work every day, even though they're not getting paid, while Speaker Johnson has given the Republicans in the House of Representatives a free vacation while they are still getting paid, by the way. The president and the members of Congress get paid. I find that to be absurd. That's why I'm not taking pay as long as government is shut down. I'm going to stand with our federal workers and the American people to be able to help try to deliver the needs that so many of them are calling out for desperately.
New Jersey Senator Andy Kim, we thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now we're joined by Avery Harper, our political director here at ABC News. So, Avery, who are the federal workers expected to be furloughed or fired as a result of the shutdown?
Right, so anyone who is not considered essential, so those workers who are not protecting life or federal property, can be furloughed or sent home without pay during a shutdown. So when you think about some of these federal agencies in places across the country, think about workers who are performing administrative tasks or research tasks or policy functions. Those are the kinds of folks who are going to be furloughed. Now, in shutdowns past, we did not see federal workers fired during a government shutdown, but we have seen the Trump administration dangle the threat of firings, and that, of course, comes on the heels of other firings of federal workers that we've seen since President Trump has taken office. Of course, we are watching to see if that happens, and if it happens, if those firings can even pass legal muster.
Now, Republicans, as we know, are saying a shutdown could have been averted if Democrats simply supported a clean, continuing resolution, as they described it. But what kind of pressure are Democrats facing from their base to hold firm?
Right. I mean, there is polling that suggests that Democratic voters want to see their party fight harder against this administration. And let's be frank, in Washington, D.C., Democrats have very little power. And so this is a big, visible moment for them to try and force the Republican Party and the Trump administration's hand. And so they argue that this is really about the Affordable Care Act, about those subsidies, about Medicaid cuts, about health care access. Republicans, they say, need to come to the table and negotiate a deal on this. But it remains to be seen if Democratic voters or any Americans are going to side with them on this. This is a huge political gamble.
And so at this point, where does Congress go from here in the days, perhaps weeks ahead?
Well, those lawmakers are going to have to come to the table, come together and negotiate. But because tensions are so high, it's unclear if there's any sort of off-ramp here. It is remarkable because one of the core responsibilities of Congress is to fund the government. And tonight, both parties and lawmakers in both parties have shown that they are unable to do that.
And what role does President Trump play at this point?
I mean, it's no secret that the Republican Party is taking its cues from the president. So what he says or does in this moment could help this shutdown that is most certainly coming, help that come to a close, or it could extend it. We have seen the president sort of inflame tensions here. The question becomes, does he encourage Republicans to come to the table with Republicans to end this shutdown, or does he encourage them to hold the line on this?
ABC News political director Avery Harper, we thank you so much.